Welcome to GCCars, my name is Eric and this is the newly refreshed Honda Passport Trailsport. So with the new refresh that this Honda Passport got, which makes it look a lot nicer than I think the pre-refresh version, we also got this Trailsport trim, which is a bit more off-roady. With the emphasis being on a bit, because it really mostly is visual changes with a few minor changes, with the most important one probably being a little bit more aggressive all-season tires, but we don't get a lift or anything, so it's not like off-roady, but it looks pretty neat. And under the billions of gallons of snow grime, I'm sorry, it's Canadian winter, I literally can't do anything about it, we technically have a Trailsport badge right there. That looks pretty cool. It's Sonic Gray. Yeah, no, talking about the exterior, I think it looks pretty good actually. I like it. It's a little more brawny, definitely a lot more exciting than the pre-refresh. I'll just put up an image as a reference of how it looked beforehand, and especially if you look at the rear, we have massive exhaust pipes, which is kind of funny. And once again, the orange Trailsport badge, I think just looked really good. No, honestly, I think this is a good looking SUV. Honda did a good job making this look really nice while actually not changing all too much. And it does look a little more off-roady, rugged, brawny in that regard. But how about we leave this miserable cold winter weather and go in the inside and see if it's nice in there. Okay, let's take a look at the Passport's interior, and this is where it does show a bit of its age despite it being just refreshed, because if you look at the interior of the new CR-V, of the new Accord, or the new Civic, all of them have the new kind of design language in the interior that Honda uses. This is still noticeable as the old one, and yes, some of the materials, they're not quite as nice as you will find them. Some of the tech isn't quite as advanced as you'll find them in newer Hondas, but honestly, I don't think it is too much of a drawback because all the important things are still done very, very well. It is comfortable. The seats here, we got heated seats, good amount of lateral support. And if you're, for example, right, you're on the trail, because it's a trail sport after all, the seating position is good. Everything is nice and usable. We have physical buttons for the HVAC and for all of this. Honestly, this works fine. Is it as nice looking or as nice to the touch as other ones? And some of the competitors maybe even, nope. But usability is good. We have plenty of space here. We have a huge center console, for example. Our push button start selector down here, of course, frees up a lot of space. HVAC is physical entirely, so no controls through the infotainment. And then we have an infotainment, which is the usual Honda system we know. Not the most features, but quick to respond. You can set up your favorites up top. You have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay wired. This works really well. And then we have our gauge cluster, which is probably what ages the car the most. But once again, fast to use. You can have quite a few options in terms of how you want to combine the, how you want to set up the digital analog mixed gauge cluster, and it works pretty well. No, honestly, it is comfy, just not as nice or as advanced as some of the competitors, admittedly. But taking a look at the back, first of all, we have a bit of a sunroof, like a usual small kind of sunroof we've known for years. And then the second row passengers, well, they will be comfortable. There's space for 3 people in the back, heated seats on both of the outer seats, and you can recline a little if you need a bit more space. Honestly, people will be comfy, either adults or kids in the back, no problem whatsoever, but that's what you expect for a small mid-size SUV like this Passport. Looking even further on the back, this is where we start to have some of the advantage compared to the smaller CR-V that this Passport gives you. We have more space. With the second row up, we get 41.0 cubic feet of space, even grocery bag hangers included, just like we wanted. Thank you, Honda. And if you put down the second row seat, you get 78.0 cubic feet, which is actually quite a lot for an SUV that is not that huge compared to most of its segment's competitors. No, yeah, outdated a little bit, but functionality-wise, comfort-wise, totally adequate. But let's see how this drives out when we're out on the road. Okay, now out on the road in the Honda Passport, let's see how quick she accelerates. We're in sport mode, brake torque, and let's go. Oh, okay. Whoa, okay, she's loud. So obviously, bit of traction issues, but that's not the car. That's the horrendous conditions in which we are driving today. But what you heard was probably the main reason why you would buy this Honda Passport in the first place. Because if we're looking at the Honda CR-V, right, that's about 10 grand less. It just got updated. It probably has nicer features. It is nice on the inside. It's a little smaller, yeah, but is this really worth 10k more for a couple of cubic feet here or there? Maybe, if you start considering that we have naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6, putting a 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque, made it to a 9-speed automatic that sends the power to all 4 wheels. Now, of course, it is nice to have quite a bit more power than the CR-V, but that's not really the compelling argument in favor of the Passport. What is the compelling argument is that the Trailsport here can tow up to 5,000 pounds, which means not only does it tow significantly more than a CR-V could ever do, but actually, if you start comparing this to other midsize SUVs that we've reviewed, it stands out in that segment as well as one of the cars with a much higher towing capacity than most competitors. So if you're looking for a car that can tow, this is where the Passport really gets interesting. But other than that, aside from the drivetrain, which by the way, it works totally fine. We have plenty of passing power. The shifting is for the most part fairly smooth. Really, it is kind of a non-issue, and it just totally works fine. Which is kind of what this car is. This car is a bit of an NPC car in a way, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't mean that as a criticism. Quite the opposite. Of course, for people like me who are, we're car enthusiasts, and most of the viewers probably, we often search for a bit more engagement. We search for a little bit more excitement, but a lot of people just want to have a car that goes comfortably from A to B, and that is being low on drama, that is being a totally adequate in everything it does, being comfortable and just getting you from A to B without making you think too much about it. And this is what the Passport does really well. It doesn't excel at anything really in terms of like stand out compared to the competition. There's individual cars that do certain things better, but this also doesn't have really any drawbacks. This is just entirely adequate and just no drama. And that is, for the right kind of people, totally the right car. But let's get a little bit more specific in terms of what that means. By talking, for example, about the suspension. The suspension is actually fairly comfortable. There are other cars in the segment that will ride a little better, but despite you feeling some of the imperfections, you're feeling some of the bumps in the road, you're never uncomfortable at any point. In terms of NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness, well, this might be a little louder when you're floored. As you heard, the 3.5 liter V6 certainly has a bit of character in terms of its noise, but you're never really going to floor it, right? And if you do, well, okay, you're going to hear it for a couple of seconds, whatever. And outside noise, like, it's not the quietest out there, but it's also not loud in any way that it would disturb you. So once again, totally 100% adequate. And now lastly, one thing where it does stand out a little bit though is if we're talking about tech, because the tech that Honda offers in here, while it's not the most up-to-date Honda they offer, it actually is quite nice, because we have Honda's active lane centering assist, which works really well. Now, this being a lane centering assist, semi-autonomous, keep your hands on the steering wheel at all times. But if you're on those longer highway drives, when you're a little bit fatigued, you're a little bit tired, these kinds of systems really help you, be a safe driver, stay on the road, and not like drift out of your lane or anything, because they can essentially do, not in this weather because visibility is quite bad for a car, because these cars can kind of steer for you on the highway for the most part, as long as the lanes are nicely visible. So something where it stands out a little bit, but it's also not the only one that does it. If we're looking at a Telluride or anything, or a Palisade, it can do the same thing, basically. But no, this is just no drama. This is just easy. And like I said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. Different strokes for different folks. It might not be the car for me, but there's plenty of people that just want to have a commuter that's easy to go from A to B. And that might be this Passport. But with that being said, let's take a look at the price, some of the competitors we reviewed, and see if this might be the ultimate commuter, small, mid-size SUV. That's already very niche-y. We're going to talk about that in the final thoughts. Okay, final thoughts on the 2022 Honda Passport Trailsport. And this being a very, very small midsize SUV, it kind of faces the same kind of issue that the Lincoln Nautilus had that we recently reviewed, which means it is a midsize SUV. It has marginally more utility use than a compact SUV, in this case the CR-V would have, but they come at quite a bit of a premium. In this case, roughly $10,000 more. Canadian, that obviously is. But I think the Passport here makes a better case for itself than, for example, the Nautilus did, because you do have a bit more space, but really the most important part is the 3.5 liter V6 we have under here and the added towing capacity. That is where this really starts to make a case for itself, like I said, even when compared to the competition. But at a price of $52,632.10 Canadian, that was quite complicated because we have like some of the floor mats in. It is just really a bit of a niche product because there are so many competitors and they all excel at different things. This is a bit of the mashup between all of them. If you really want to hone in on that space, well, the Traverse is extremely big, has a third row, and at the same time is marginally more expensive than the Passport here. If you want to have a bit more comfort, well, the CX-9 exists. It's a regular size midsize SUV, but it is nicer on the inside because it's a Mazda, and it also just is like a grand or two more than this Passport is. But like I said, if you're looking for towing, this is really where it makes a case for it. Other than that, the Palisade exists, the Telluride exists. They just got refreshed. They're amazing midsize SUVs. It really is. I'm at a point where I can't really tell you exactly which one you should take because it is really down to what you need. But personally, which one would I take? Out of all the midsize SUVs we have tested, which one did I like the most? I would probably go for the Telluride. We haven't tested the Palisade yet, but the Telluride just kind of had the best of all of the worlds. It wasn't quite as nice as the CX-9. It didn't have the towing capacity that the Passport has, but I don't need that, for example. The Telluride just has a bit of everything, which I certainly liked. Is this a bad SUV? No, not at all. It's really good, actually. It's just a bit of a niche product. With that being said, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you liked it, remember to like and subscribe because we upload videos every single week. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, whatever it is. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and goodbye.